Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. All right, hello. Sorry if you were here before. Still figuring everything out. So if you're in the chat, how's it going? Okay, I see a couple people here. I'll hang out and see if more people show up. Sorry about if you were here before, having some issues with the video. I guess if you're in the chat, just say hi. Let me know how you're doing, and then we can start to talk about questions or issues that anybody's having. Again, this is like office hours, so we want to use this time to help you answer whatever questions you have about assignments or about the way the class is working. Any of that, just let me know. And can you hear me okay? Is it coming through? I hope I get the right link in here. Okay, got a question. Like I said, I want to use this time to just answer any questions that you have about the class, about SA2. We can talk about your research question, any kind of um, questions on requirements or sources or anything like that. Yeah, just let me know. Not exactly the same as SA1. Sort of what I mean by that is when we did the rough draft for SA1, I had you just treat it more like a free write. And I remember I gave you, I said just sit down for, what did I say, like an hour or so and just do nothing but write. You don't have to take that same approach. So you don't have to just sit down and write without stopping. I don't expect you to do that. But don't be afraid to still treat it similar to how we do our free writes. Okay. In other words, it is rough. It is going to be a place for you to just get ideas onto the paper and um, kind of try things out. That said, you can take a little bit more time with it than we did before. I know some people talked about how they didn't like being forced to write nonstop. But yeah, I mean, it is going to be pretty rough, so that's fine. Does that help? Does that answer your question? Is that what you were looking for? And then on Tuesday, I'll put out a some more information. I'll give you like a document or something to look at that you can refer to when you write it. So okay, so that did help. And then as far as what we're going to do with the rough draft, I'm hoping to do some kind of online peer review. Okay. Other questions? One thing that I'll mention to those of you that are here, and apologies for not having this set up the way that my YouTube videos are, where I show you my screen. I couldn't quite get that to work for the live stream, but just an update for something to keep in mind. I got sent an email today about grade policies. I guess they're changing the way that they're making some changes to grades, and it says that if you choose, instead of getting a letter grade for this course, you can move to a credit, no credit kind of course. Like I think it says satisfactory / no credit. And in that grading scheme, anything over a D- is considered satisfactory and you get credit. And I don't know what that does for you. And I'm going to have to talk to my supervisor and get some more information on that. But just wanted to kind of give a heads up right now. I'll probably put this in the next YouTube video that I put out, but I figured I should mention it now. I just got the email today, so I don't have any more information than that, but just something to keep in mind. Oh, sorry, one more question. Lay it on me. Trouble forming the research question. Okay. What are you thinking so far? Let me hear kind of what your thoughts are, and I can try to help you make it more manageable. Or if you have ideas so far. Again, wherever you are, or whatever your thoughts are so far, just let me know and I'll try to help. Okay, unethical practices in the food industry. It's a good topic. Do you have more to it than that, or is this where you're at and this is where you're having trouble? Okay. I don't know if you're still looking, but while you're typing, what I'll say just from what you've given me that where your topic is unethical practices in the food industry. Um, the first thing I'll say is that that's a bit broad, so you might want to find a way to narrow this down a bit. In other words, if you want to write about everything unethical that food industries have ever done, it's going to fill books and books and books and books because there's a lot of information there. So since we only have one essay worth, to try to put some limitations on this topic, right? So you might look at unethical practices in the food industries in the United States or in Europe, or you might focus on a particular type of food. I mean, are you looking at restaurants or fast food, or are you looking at like the factories themselves where food is made and processed? Is this related to maybe the beef industry, or it could be, I don't know, things like trans fat or processed foods, or plastic in foods. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can take this topic and try to make it a little smaller. So just from what you've given me right here, that would be my first response is that you should probably try to narrow this down. Okay. False marketing of processed food. Okay, good. That's much more narrow and marketable. So then a question that relates to this issue, because again, we have to put this into some kind of question form so that you have something to look into. And keep in mind that essay 3 is going to relate to some sort of moral or ethical question, which for this topic shouldn't be a problem at all. But you might want to consider things like, should there be laws in place determining how companies are allowed to market processed foods, or how should this industry be regulated? How should marketing be regulated in this type of industry? Um, what are different ways that we could potentially um, make sure that food industries are, I guess, telling the truth when you know they're putting information out there. um, and these are just off the top of my head. Again, there's a lot of ways to turn this into some kind of inquiry or to narrow it even smaller. um, so you're going to have to work with that a little bit. Does that help? Does that give you some ideas at least? um, I think this is a good topic, and I think um, there's definitely stuff to work with here. Okay, so the legal aspect of marketing sounds good. Yeah. So um, again, and you don't have to have your final question figured out right away. Even really, even by the time you get to the end of this paper two, you don't have to have everything figured out perfectly. Um, the whole point of this paper is that it is a process. It's part of the research process. And what happens is uh, as you do more research, your ideas, your topic, your argument is going to change. And so just keep that in the back of your head. I'd go with that. Focus on the legal aspect of marketing in the food industries. Try to come up with some keywords. I would recommend uh, using Academic Search Complete at least for a couple. Again, you only need two sources uh, from like the library sites, but yeah, start playing around with putting all those things together and see what you find. And as you read more about this, just start to focus in on something more. But this sounds like a good start to me. This sounds like you should have enough information to, or you should be able to find enough information. Um, but I don't think it's going to be overwhelming, right? Um, Again, the idea of the unethical practices in the food industry, that's a very big topic. And, again, it's hard to really do something or do a topic like that justice in a short paper. Um, okay, awesome. Well, any other questions? And I see somebody else is here, so if this whoever else is here has any other questions, let me know. Okay. Well, if you don't have any more questions, I mean, uh, I guess you can take off. Thanks for stopping by. Uh, Again, hope that helped. Um, this as a heads up, I'm gonna be away from. I'm not gonna be answering emails or anything over the weekend. So again, if you have questions, ask them now. But yeah, whoever's here is you got what you needed, then I guess you can be done. So other sources can be from online. Yes, the only requirement that I have is that 2 of the sources come from some kind of, let's say, academic or scholarly source. So what that means is that you either use like the UH library to get this source. So if you go to the content on Blackboard before the online update, I put up some lecture notes about research. It's one of the PowerPoint slides or PowerPoints that I gave, and that talks about using the university's databases, and it shows you how to access some of the databases, and these will give you academic peer-reviewed sources. Okay, so if you go to the UH library page, under that there's a link that says databases and guides. If you click on that, it brings up a bunch of links, and probably the most useful one is called Academic Search Complete. It's under popular databases, but JSTOR is also very good. And when you search through there, what's going to pop up is, or most of what pops up is articles from academic journals. Now, the reason why I'm having that restriction that you need some kind of academic source is because the articles that you're and the information that you're going to get from Google. Now, that's not to say that it's 100% correct or that it's never going to be wrong or that academic sources are infallible or anything like that. What it means is that you can expect a certain amount of credibility from those sources because of how much it takes, how rigorous the process is of publishing through academic publishers. So as long as you get 2 from one of those sources. Now, that's not the only place to find academic peer-reviewed material. You can also use Google Scholar. You can also use like government sources, for example. So if you were going to study, like, let's say your research question has to do with like infectious disease, then it would make sense for you to use a source from like the CDC, for example. Does that answer your question? I kind of talked for a while there. Okay. But yeah, so the other 2 sources can come from anything, really. Now, because we're all quarantined, obviously online is where you're going to find most of your material. The FDA approves medical devices. Okay, yeah. So yeah, if you find information from the FDA, yes, you can pull directly from the FDA. I'd still like you to, I would recommend at least finding something off of Academic Search Complete. Do some searches, see what you find. Just because it's a useful, it is really useful to be able to use this tool. I think that you're going to have to use it as you progress in your academic career. Now, that said, going to the FDA and finding information that way is also incredibly valuable. But just play around with it. See if you can find anything that helps. Again, I do want you to get some practice using these databases. Even if you don't end up finding anything, just play around with it. Other questions, other things I can help you all with? Zoom sessions. So I was reading through the journals and it seemed pretty split. A lot of people said they liked the idea of YouTube Live. A lot of others said Zoom, and then others said Microsoft Teams. That said, I think we are going to move to, I'll make a decision later this week about whether I'm going to use Zoom or Teams. My original thought was that YouTube Live would be good because it's pretty accessible. But after running these last 2 office hours, I think it might be more useful if I'm not the only one talking. So, yeah, I do think we're gonna switch to either Zoom or Teams. I'm gonna play around with those and see which one works better. Do you have any preference on Zoom or Teams? Like I said, the journals I read was pretty split. Yeah, I think that's one of the issues, and that's my bad. I thought Zoom. Okay. All right. I'll play around with that and see how that works. But yeah, it definitely does feel like, especially when we're talking, or at least these 2 office hour sessions I've been having, it does seem like there's quite a big delay between when I start talking and when people are able to type in a response. So yeah, it makes sense. I think we'll probably switch to one of those. The one issue I saw with Zoom is that they put a limit on how long you can hold a meeting. Yeah, so there's like a 40-minute limit on group meetings, at least for the free option. What do I think about the UH pass fail option? So I just got that email today, so I was kind of reading through it and seeing, trying to figure out the details of it. So I don't have like a well thought out answer for you yet. In a lot of ways, I think it sounds fair. I think that considering how big of a change this is and how many teachers and students are having to adapt on the fly, that I think that there will be students who maybe would have got a high grade, and then because of all this happening, their grade may have dropped a bit. I don't expect that in this class, but just other classes might be a little less flexible. Students may have issues, just getting access to internet, or not all students have a laptop, or just basic stuff like that can really cause a lot of problems. So In a lot of ways, it sounds fair to me. Um, I don't really know what the implications of this are going to be, whether it's the satisfactory grade is going to hold the same amount of weight, or how that's going to affect things like GPA or any of that. So yeah, I'm kind of curious to learn more about it and see how it all plays out. Let's see. When I schedule video conferences in place of that 1 week, yeah. So I do still want to do video conferences. Um, so I've set that for week 14, and so that's going to be April. What is that? 10th, 11th. Is that April 14th? Yeah. So I think April 14th, that week, I'm hoping to hold just one-on-one video conferences, and we'll probably just use whatever we switch to. If we use Zoom or Teams, or I have Google Hangouts or whatever it is. But yeah, I wanted to do it before this paper, but at least giving you the chance to kind of go over paper 3 before you turn in the final, I think that'll be helpful. Um, I got the government issuing citizens $1,200 each. That's another one. It makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of people who are going to be stuck at home, losing jobs, and in fact, I have a cousin who worked in the um, food services industry out in California, and so he got laid off recently. Um, so I don't even know what he's gonna be doing. Um, so yeah, I'm not that I don't know. I think that I think what they're trying to do is, from my very, very basic understanding. Again, this is not my area of expertise by any means, but I believe the idea behind this is that when you give money to people like this, it gives them spending power, and then they're pumping money back into the economy, and so it keeps a lot of these businesses afloat. The other thing it does is that it allows people who are getting laid off or aren't able to work. It allows them to kind of meet a lot of their bills and just living requirements. So that's my completely uneducated take on that. Again, I'm not an expert on this, so I don't know how this is all gonna shake out, but yeah, it makes a bit of sense to me. Life is crazy. It is indeed. Okay, other questions? Again, this time is up to just help whoever needs it, whoever's here. Looks like there's 2 people here. How we feeling about paper 2? About the whole switch to online, this crazy life in general? Yeah, it is a little apocalyptic. Yeah. Not the biggest fan of online classes. Yeah, I hate online classes. Hate's a strong word, but I would much rather hold classes like we usually do. Um, a lot of my colleagues, they teach hybrid classes where they have one class online and one class face to face, and I never liked doing that. I had the option to teach that way, and I would much rather teach face to face. I feel more comfortable that way. So I always pick the face to face option. Um, and so now, yeah, I'm having to figure out how to move everything online and what's the best option here, and especially doing it in the middle of a term is much more difficult. So yeah, I'm not a fan of all this either. And then yeah, just staying home. I have been so much lazier than I usually am in the past couple of weeks. So yeah, I think that yeah. So that's my plan moving forward. Is that we're definitely going to do something with Zoom or Teams. Again, I'm going to play around with them next week. It won't be this weekend because I'm taking my exams and I'm going off the grid for for my exams. But yeah, um, I held one of these meetings earlier today, and that was what we were. That was the conclusion that we were coming to: is that the YouTube Live is more accessible, but makes it harder to interact than like a Zoom, for example. And I think the interaction is important. So yeah, I'll play around with it, and I'll try to put up. Um, I'll try to set up a Zoom meeting on Thursday. Okay, good. I do have one animal, and he is being lazy right now. Come here. Come here. Come here. I'll see if I can get him to wake up. He's being lazy. Come here. You want a treat? Come on. Come here. I don't know if he's going to show up. Come here. Come here. Come on. There's a good boy. There you go. So yeah, this is my dog. He's very sleepy. Five dogs. Wow. All right, buddy. My parents have four right now. And so when we visit, we bring him, and then it's five in the house. I don't know how they do it. Yeah, dogs are fun. Oh, stop licking the table. Sit. Lazy bum. Okay, interesting. So, what kind of is there a specific kind of device or leading edge? Well, I don't have time to watch that time soon, but if I remember, I'll check it out. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess. All right, go back to sleep. I guess what I would say is, and you probably have this in mind already, but just make sure that you may want to narrow the question down a little bit. So just being specific about what type of device. Okay, female sterilization device. Jeez. Okay. That's horrible. Okay. Yeah. Cobalt implants. So what's I don't know enough about this. What's the problem with that? Ah, that is a problem. Jeez. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's definitely a good topic here. One thing to keep in mind is at this point, so does it require human testing before a device can be approved to use in practice? Okay. Um, so at this point, you still want to be in the exploratory phase. So uh, I get, yeah. I mean, the Netflix thing that can count towards your research, and I mean, you can really even list that as one of your sources. Um, Now, again, you need two academic scholarly sources, but I think the Netflix one would count for one of your others if you want to use it. Um, that said, start to, I guess, narrow down what it is you're trying to explore, or just kind of put parameters on what relied on a source that piqued my interest. I mean, again, it can be used as a source if you want. I mean, you don't have to, obviously, but there's nothing wrong with using documentaries as sources for your research paper. But I guess what I would say is just be aware of what it is you're trying to explore, what it is that you're hoping to accomplish at the end of this and the next paper. Okay. As a reminder, the next paper is about you're going to make an argument based on the research that you've done so far, and your argument should touch on um, some sort of moral or ethical question. Now, obviously, the moral and ethical part is it's going to be pretty easy, right? Where you have doctors who are, or sorry, the FDA is obviously doing some shady shit here. Um, but what I would say is that start to have in mind what you see your specific argument accomplishing, right? So, are you going to argue that we need stricter regulations for the FDA, or are you going to argue that there should be, I don't know, someone to hold the FDA accountable, or stricter? Uh, I mean, how does the FDA work? I don't even know, to be honest. Do they are members like appointed or hired, or who's in charge, right? These are all things that you need to figure out, and because if you're going to argue that we need to stop this, I guess, corrupt process that you're pointing out, um, or I guess, is it careless? Is it corrupt? What's going on there, and how do we stop it? Right. So I think that's kind of what you want to have in mind as you move forward, and to kind of figure out. Great hack. Okay. Again, I take my exams this weekend. Um, it's basically 3 straight days of writing. Um, and I'm going to be writing, I think the usual is about 2 papers, 15 pages each. So I have to come up with 30 pages of stuff this weekend. So I'm not going to have any time to watch any Netflix, but yeah, if I remember, I'll check it out. Okay, doctors get paid on the side to focus on, right? Like how you want how you want your argument to go, right? Are you going to try to focus on everything? Or are you going to try to focus on a specific solution to this issue? Um, right. So, like, carelessness might be different than corruption, or focusing on the, I don't know, like uh, medical companies that are coming up with these things and trying to push those through. And we can talk more about this later, but yeah, just kind of keep those things in mind. Well, thank you. I'll be sure to let everybody know how it goes. I think I'll know about a week later whether or not I passed. Um, so my papers. So my field of study is called rhetoric and composition, and basically that means how to, or I guess we focus on writing, and we focus on how to teach writing. Um, and so and really we just focus on what makes writing good or effective, and the written and the spoken word, and how they can be used to persuade, um, or argue, or all of these other things. And so that's kind of my field. That's my big field. And so I have two focuses that or yeah, two focuses for this exam. My first focus is composition pedagogy, which really focuses on different approaches to teaching writing. Um, and my list, so I have a reading list, and it's got about 30 to 40 items on it. And they're all about the different advances in how we teach writing, and different approaches, and historically how we've taught writing, and new approaches to teaching writing. And so there's a lot that goes into this basic writing class that y'all are taking. And then my second list has to do with style, and that one's I think I had close to like 50 or 60 items on that list. And style is basically looking at kind of the more surface level, like sentence level parts of writing. So I bring a lot of that into the class. If you think about when we talked about metaphor and chiasmus and all of that. These are all elements of style, and so I'm looking at not only what what aspects of writing do we use to describe a writer's style, but also um, how do we teach style effectively, and should we teach style? I think that we should, but that's not everybody agrees with that. So, um, well, thank you. Yeah, I try. um, I always hope that I'm, you know, that I am doing a decent job of teaching, and so yeah, it's nice to hear that it's working. So, thank you. Yeah, I find style helpful. Um, that is kind of one of my focuses is trying to find ways um, to teach style effectively. One of the arguments has been that if we focus on style, we're leaving other things out of the classroom that people need to know how to do and to use. And sometimes style gets confused with things like grammar, and they think that, oh, this is just kind of like mirror grammar, I guess. Just they don't really find it helpful, but I think that it certainly can be helpful. And I try to teach style in a way that makes it, I guess, more interesting. Like if you think back to some of the um, short writing assignments I've had you do, especially short writing 2 and 3, these were influenced by um, some of what I've been reading about style. So, um, like I said, I hope I hope it helped. I hope those were good assignments. We can keep talking about this, but just want to point out if anybody's in the chat that hasn't asked a question and wants to, or wants any help on paper two or anything, just let me know. Well, thank you. Um, if nobody has any more questions, I mean, you're not obligated to stick around. Um, like I said, this is time just to give people help that they need. Um, and yeah, I'll work on setting up a Zoom or Teams or something so this can be a little more interactive when we have class on Thursday or next Thursday. Anything else we want to talk about? All right, well, I'm gonna leave this on for another minute or so. If nobody has anything to say, then I'll sign off. Hope this helped. Good luck on everything. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and end it here then. I'm not seeing anybody else, so if I end this and you still have questions, you can email it at night. I'm probably not going to answer any or too much from here on out, but if you get one to me quick, I can still give you some help. Other than that, I'm gone until Tuesday. All right, so have a good weekend. Later, y'all.